Welcome to this evening's virtual COSC meeting. My name is Laura Hack. I'm the trustee elected in wards 3 and 4 and your board chair. We're very pleased to have so many of you join us this evening. First of all, thank you to everyone here tonight. I truly wish we were in person so I could express my gratitude to each and every one of you. Thank you for being here to support student success and being a rock as school council during these turbulent times. The trustees and I look forward to hopefully seeing everyone in October. Please don't hesitate to reach out at any point should you have questions. Our board values and recognizes the important role parents and community members make in the education of the next generation. Tonight's agenda, I would like to make note that we do not have breakout rooms scheduled, and I apologize for that. We have such big topics this evening and didn't want to cut off any questions that you may have in relation to them. If you're able to stay till the end of tonight's meeting, we would love to have your feedback in relation to if the COSC meetings going forward should be in person or online again. I do want to make note at this point, we do not have the ability to do hybrid meetings yet. As a reminder to limit background noise, we ask that you mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. The presentation portion of tonight's COSC meeting is being recorded for the purpose of making the PowerPoint presentation and the recording available to all school councils on the CBE website. Again, a reminder to our cameras off and microphones off. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Blackfoot Nations, which include the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta. I'd like to welcome my fellow trustees here this evening. Trustee Dana Downey, Trustee Marilyn Dennis, Trustee Patricia Bolger, Trustee Susan Vukadinovich, Trustee Nancy Close, and Trustee Charlene May. Joining us from the superintendent's team tonight are Christopher Yusi, Joanne Pittman, Brad Grundy, Danny Breton, and Marla Martin Esposito. Again, if you're just joining us, you will notice that tonight we do not have scheduled breakout sessions with your trustee, but we value those opportunities and we've heard from so many of you, so they will continue next year. Second, we ask that you please complete tonight's meeting evaluation as it asks about topics and focus for next year's meetings, as well as an opportunity for your input on meetings being in person or virtually. The link will be in the chat near the end of the meeting this evening. Thank you all for joining us, and please pass along our gratitude to everyone at your schools. CBE has such a hardworking school councils and volunteers. This evening, I will pass this next slide off to Trustee Dennis to discuss budget.
Thank you so much, Chair Hack, and welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Thanks for joining us. I have the privilege tonight of just giving you a few budget updates for our budget for the 22-23 school year. So as you may know, school boards are required to submit a balanced budget to the province, and the Board of Trustees approved the budget for 2022-23 on May 24th, and we have submitted that budget to government. So balancing the budget means that the CBE continues to find ways to accommodate the cost of enrollment and also the impacts of inflation within the funding that we receive. And we also have a commitment to ensuring that programming is effective. And by that, we mean that it achieves the outcomes that are intended, that it is efficient, which means that it provides the greatest benefit for every dollar spent, and also that it is economical, so that the programs are sustainable and affordable now and into the future. So the budget that we submitted to government is reflective of the priorities of the board, which are academic success, equity, and well-being, and also in alignment with the education plan, which my fellow trustees will tell you a little bit more about later. This budget also allows for curriculum implementation and piloting. So we also will receive some additional funding that we targeted dollars outside of our base budget for curriculum implementation, and also some additional funding for student well-being. The board has directed administration through policy to maintain reserves at 3%. And examples of what reserve funds could be used for are COVID supports and fit-up costs for new schools. And so the best way to describe those, and I think Superintendent Grundy's definition of it is my favorite, is that if you were to pick up a school building and shake it, everything that comes out of it, or to fall out, that would be what we would use reserves for, to be able to purchase those items. And those would be the fit-up costs for new schools. For the CBE, 3% reserves represents approximately 11 days of operational funding. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Minister of Education announced that school jurisdictions would receive at least the same operating funding for 2022-2023 as was received for the 2021-2022 school year. For the Calgary Board of Education, our funding will remain flat. So the same amount we've received for this year, we will be receiving for next year. On this slide here, the side graph that you're looking at just highlights the year-over-year funding changes for the CBE. And I'll highlight a couple of things for you. First of all, facility operations and maintenance. So those operations and maintenance dollars are based on utilization rates. And so it's really important that the CBE maintain the utilization rates in our school at roughly 85% or higher, since that rate attracts full funding for operations and maintenance. When we start to fall below that percentage of utilization, then we do receive less dollars for operations and maintenance for those buildings. Onto bridge funding and COVID mitigation funding. So for the last 2 years, the provincial government has provided bridge funding to school boards in an effort to keep boards whole as we adjust to the weighted moving average funding model. So the bridge funding is intended to be a temporary grant. We've also received COVID mitigation funding, and this is another temporary grant that falls outside of our base funding. The total of these grants for next year for the CBE will be over $51 million, so approximately $51.5 million. And it is unclear what the future of those grants will be. Like I said, they are intended to be temporary grants, and we don't know if they will be in place next year or not. And so given the amount at $51 million, it's certainly something that we'll be paying attention to because that is a significant amount of money for the CBE. And then a few notes on system administration. Those are central costs that keep the system running. So that would be things like payroll, IT, the CBE website, school websites, Power School, and so on. So system administration is also a grant, and that funding is 3% of our operations, and it has been held static at $43.7 million. That funding envelope has been held flat since 2020, 2021, and it represents about 3% of our overall budget. So the Calgary Board of Education is not permitted to spend more than this on board system and administration, but we can spend less. So wherever we can find the opportunity to spend less, we can take money from that grant and push it out to schools to support learning. And so for next school year, we will be using $2.4 million from this grant that will be pushed up to schools to support learning. So we are living in a world of flat funding and increased enrollment. So consistent year-over-year funding and increased enrollment means that our funding per student is lower. So funding per student is based on total Alberta education funding, less specific targeted funds. So the CBE, when we calculate our per student funding, we remove those targeted funds. Examples would be transportation, infrastructure maintenance and renewal, capital maintenance and renewal, the Alberta Teachers Retirement Fund. we remove those dollars out of the calculation for per student funding because those are dollars that cannot be used for teaching and learning in the classroom. So our budget does account for additional students and inflationary pressures, and the CBE has aligned our programs and supports within the funding that we receive to ensure that our budget is balanced. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so we continue to maximize dollars to the classroom to support instruction. Operations and maintenance keeps buildings and learning environments clean and safe. Transportation funds are designated dollars as well, and the board has a motion in place that directs administration to balance the cost of transportation or the transportation budget through service level adjustments and also fees charged to families. And the point of that is so that we are not using any dollars that could be used for instruction to subsidize the cost of transportation. And then in specific areas of operation, centralized services provide administrative time savings to schools to allow for more time to focus on teaching and learning. And so if you would like more information regarding budget 2022-2023, the document that the Board of Trustees considered at our May 24th meeting is available on the website. And so you're welcome to go there and take a look and certainly reach out should you have any questions. And so I'll now pass the meeting over to Trustee Bolger to introduce the education plan for 2021-2024.
Thanks very much, Trustee Dennis, for that excellent overview. So at the same time as we approve the budget, the board also approves the education plan. Student success obviously is at the heart of the education plan. Funding is aligned to these 4 goals and aligns with the board's priorities of academic success, equity, and well-being. And each piece of the puzzle represents the goals within our plan: learning excellence, collaborative partnerships, strategic resourcing, and people excellence. This is building off of last year's education plan as year 2 of a 3-year cycle, so it may look familiar to you. So for learning excellence, sorry, I stalled there, back that, thank you. Learning excellence creates strong student achievement and well-being for lifelong success. People excellence ensure all leaders and staff demonstrate excellence in advancing student success. Collaborative partnerships are going to foster relationships to support student success, and strategic resourcing focuses on allocating resources to support student success. And we'll speak to each of these in the presentation. So this is a bit more detailed here. So the Board of Trustees provides oversight and direction to administration and its focus on student success and monitors progress. The education plan connects each employee in CBE to student success. So the 2022 to 25 education plan is a direct reflection of the priorities identified by the Board of Trustees: achievement, equity, and well-being. And this plan is developed in alignment with the provincial government's assurance framework, business and fiscal plans. And at the school level, the school development plan aligns with this system education plan. The education plan is a 3-year plan that is evidence-based and informed from feedback collected at the school level through school development plans, system data, feedback gathered from school councils and parents as part of school planning engagement, and leadership across the organization. So we advance the education plan through a variety of ways. SDPs and service unit work plans advance learning and enhance opportunities for students and families. Centralized supports are aligned with system-wide priorities reflected by CB values and education plan. The Board of Trustees monitor progress of the education plan through a variety of monitoring mechanisms, which are noted on that slide. So here we go. This is the first puzzle piece, and it is learning excellence. So each of the outcomes in the learning excellence work toward continual improvement. And central to both the literacy and mathematics outcomes are our new literacy and mathematics frameworks, which are available on our website and are a central guide to informing professional learning, resourcing, and support. And these are both excellent documents, and I'd encourage you to check them out if you get the chance. And then also all schools have a literacy and mathematics goal in their school development plans. With regards to Indigenous, we are striving to acknowledge and support the implementation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action in our schools. We're moving forward with a system-wide implementation of the CBE's Indigenous Education Holistic Lifelong Learning Framework. And this includes targeted supports for students who self-identify as Indigenous and foundational knowledge for benefit of all students and staff. We also have very diverse learning needs, and the CBE provides a range of supports and services within the funding that we receive. And we also work with partners to provide supports to our students. We monitor achievement and well-being for all students, and a student well-being framework is being developed, and then each school development plan will also have a well-being goal in addition to the literacy and math goals that are also already in those plans. System-wide implementation of strategies to advance anti-racism, diversity, and inclusion, which includes CBE Cares, is also at the forefront. And lastly, the implementation of the new K-3 English language, arts, and literature and math curriculums that Trustee Downey will speak to shortly. And next up, we have Trustee May.
Thank you, Trustee Bolger. This is people excellence. So student success and well-being requires highly qualified employees working together in a professional, supportive workplace. This important piece of the plan focuses on a few key areas that will be critical to achieving success for all students. A key area of focus is supporting leaders to understand not only their role in the success of their school or unit, but also their role as system leaders. It is also important that leaders understand not only the technical aspects of their job as instructional leaders or subject matter experts in the service units, but also people and operational leadership parts of their roles. A professional learning framework, cohorts to support succession planning, and leadership development sessions have been created to support people excellence. Employee engagement is also highlighted, as engaged staff are key to meeting our expectations regarding student success. This is done through a variety of mechanisms, such as surveys, system meetings, area meetings, and also ensuring that we're including staff perspectives in decisions that affect them. Another key area is in ensuring we have the right frameworks for professional learning and development, including collaborative learning networks and cross-functional teams. We will now continue with collaborative partnerships.
Thank you so much, Charlene. Another one of our 4 goals in our education plan is to foster relationships to support student success through collaborative partnerships. I'm sure you've heard the expression that it takes a village to raise a child, and the exact same idea applies to the schools. Our students can only reach their full potential if we work closely with parents, staff members, community organizations, and students themselves. Ongoing communication and two-way dialogue are really important to achieving this goal. We value the diverse voices of students, parents, school councils, community members, and partner organizations to work together in the best interests of students. I'll highlight 3 areas that I'm particularly proud of when it comes to the CBE's collaborative partnerships. First, we place a strong emphasis on honoring student voice. Schools have effective practices that engage students and enhance student voice on a range of themes, including assessment, well-being, teaching and learning, and school culture. Secondly, I'm proud that the CBE partners with many organizations during instructional hours, some of these collaborations are tied to learning outcomes, and these include extensive partnerships with post-secondary institutions. Other collaborations with community organizations provide enhanced supports for our students. Working closely with the City of Calgary, we also make school spaces available after hours for nonprofit organizations. And finally, I'm proud that CBE works closely with parents. We do this in various ways. For example, when there are large-scale decisions that require parent input, We follow our dialogue framework to ensure diverse perspectives are captured and included where possible. But beyond the larger scale engagements we do, we also involve parents at the ground level in numerous ways. I'm grateful to you, the parents who are here tonight, because of your very presence is an indication that you are actively involved in your children's schooling. Research shows that one of the greatest determining factors in a child's success at school is the involvement of their parents or guardians in the life of the life of the school. So thank you for being the kind of active, involved parents who volunteer to attend COSC meetings, and for all the many ways you're involved in your children's school, from volunteering for field trips, to organizing fun lunches, to providing input on what you expect at your child's school. I'll now invite Trustee Close to speak on another aspect of the education plan.
Thank you, Chair Hack. The next goal is strategic resourcing, which in essence is all about aligning the budget to our board priorities and the actions within the education plan. CBE administration ensures that their decisions line up with being equitable, effective, efficient, and economical. And you're going to hear that, you've heard that already, and you'll hear that throughout the work we do. And they do the best possible within the resources provided, all focused on student success. As a board, we review and monitor CBE's resourcing decisions through their quarterly variance reports, the budget assumptions report, of course, the budget itself, and the audited financial statements that are prepared and presented to us annually in November. The financial health matrix, as I've mentioned before, is not my favorite piece of information, is provided with our quarterly variance reports and provides a risk analysis on CBE's financial and operational health. We also monitor progress at our board meetings through our from a student success lens, from our with our results policies, as also with our 3-year capital plan and our 3-year system student accommodation plan. So how does all of that translate into action? How is CBE equitable, effective, efficient, and economical with its resources? Here are just a couple of examples. We are currently working directly with the City of Calgary, Calgary Catholic, and Franco Sud on the joint use planning agreement, so we can assure that we have an updated agreement and that we can continue to create great communities that have schools to serve student learning needs. We have renewed and updated the targets and plan in CBE's 2030 sustainability framework so that we can continue to support a sustainable future. Whether it's reducing waste sent to landfill, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, or reducing dependency on non-renewable energy sources, and of course, building new schools to a LEED Silver or better construction standard, those all strategically reduce our operating and maintenance costs. The equity index model that is used in CBE's allocation of resources to school is actually a perfect example of strategic resourcing meeting our board priorities. And strategic resourcing also includes making tough choices, because it also includes reviewing CBE's programs, services, and supports to assess effectiveness and efficiency aligned with provincial funding. And school utilization rates are currently still a driver to initiate a maximum program and operation efficiencies. And now over to Trustee Downey for our curriculum update. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Nancy. The CBE understands that our learners need to be engaged, critical thinkers, and problem solvers. The CBE and the Board of Trustees has provided specific and detailed feedback on concerns for timing, design, and content directly to the provincial government through the Alberta School Boards Association, ASBA, and the College of Alberta School Superintendents, CAS. Concerns remain regarding design and content, as well as the timing of implementation due to the challenges of the pandemic, which is why we have advocated for a full implementation delay. The board will also continue to advocate for ongoing structured feedback opportunities to strengthen curriculum design and content for grades 4 to 6. Alberta education mandates curriculum. CBE administration, teachers and staff are working to prepare for the implementation of mathematics and English language arts and literacy curriculum for K-3, as well as physical education and wellness curriculum for K-6. Teachers are experts in designing learning that meets the needs of students now and in the future. The Board of Trustees has full confidence in the ability of the CBE to provide quality education for all students. And now you'll hear directly from our Superintendent of School Improvement, Joe Pittman.
Thank you, Trustee Downey, and good evening, everyone. The slide before you provides a reference to a timeline that is also available on Alberta Education's external website talking about curriculum implementation. What I'd like to highlight here is information that has been shared publicly around the mandate for all Alberta schools to implement the English Language Arts and Literature curriculum and mathematics curriculum K-3 and the physical education and wellness curriculum K-6 in fall of 2022. In addition to that, we will also be part of a small scale implementation, and that is less than 60 schools who will be involved in either 1 or 2 subjects per grade level, pending their grade configuration, to test out the implementation for those particular grades in English Language Arts and Literature and Mathematics. This will further inform our resource selection, ensure that we have effective professional learning in place for those particular grade configurations, and will set us in good stead for the following mandated implementation across all schools for grades 4 to 6. Point number 3 that you see before you, what I'd like to clarify is that Alberta Education has recently announced the opportunity to pilot and provide field testing for K-6 science, French immersion language arts and literature, French first language and literature, and fine arts. However, what I'd like to clarify and make a particular point in is that for the CBE, and currently the only 2 subjects that would be piloted on a very small scale would be K-6 science and also K-6 French immersion language arts and literature. Significant work is underway as this announcement has just been made most recently, and we will be again looking to be able to be in a position to provide effective feedback to Alberta Education around those particular curriculums through the form of a pilot. Any other opportunities to pilot any other subjects, the French first language and literature, as a point of clarification, would not apply to any schools in the CBE, and the fine arts curriculum has not yet been formally released. Next slide, please. One of the things that's really important to note, and you may not be able to read all of this slide, but it's important to understand how curriculum is understood. As mentioned earlier by Trustee Downey, the government designs and mandates curriculum. However, what we'd like to do is make sure that we have a full understanding of the meaning of curriculum. Historically in Alberta, the Ministry of Education documents outline what students are to learn, and these have been called programs of study. The new documents are now called curriculum. In the simplest terms, in understanding what curriculum is, it's a description of what, why, and how well students should learn in a systematic and intentional way. In this context, what Alberta Education has provided is the written curriculum, and the written curriculum refers to the published government documents that outline the content that students are to learn. It includes the content identified to be learned in each discipline or course. But then we have the taught curriculum, and the taught curriculum is how teachers actually enact the curriculum. This happens through their interpretations and decisions about how best to bring their curriculum to life for students. This includes the way they select materials, the manner in which they design learning activities, the assessment practices, and the educational experiences students engage in as part of their learning and in support of their well-being. Then we have the intended curriculum, and this includes the set of learning outcomes that have been formally identified for students to learn, the written curriculum. It also includes the consciously chosen instructional approaches. That includes the way tasks are designed and how they are assessed, the created learning environments, and the accompanying resources. Therefore, the intended curriculum involves both what Alberta Education has written, as well as the manner in which it is taught within schools. So what does this mean in the CBE? First of all, the Alberta Programs of Study, again, they outline what students are to learn, and they are foundational to teaching and learning. The why is the purpose and reason why students engage with identified content, and this comes from an understanding of the nature of any discipline and the selected goals for learning. The why is included in the taught curriculum. How content is taught is equally important as to what content is taught. And the CBE education plan and the identified literacy, mathematics, student well-being, and Indigenous holistic lifelong learning frameworks outline how teaching and learning will be approached in CBE as teachers interpret the written curriculum and make it relevant for their students and their unique contexts. Within CBE, our focus is on designing and implementing curriculum in a manner that is inclusive and equitable, reflective of the full range of diversity within our classrooms. At this point, I'll go to the next slide, please. And I'll just make a note, if you can please make sure your mic is muted, that will be excellent. Thank you. At this point, Alberta Education has provided the curriculum and it's available online for all of the public. There are also some additional supporting resources that have been made available, and they have also identified possible professional learning opportunities that they will be supporting. As we have assessed these different supports, the CBE administration has also spent significant time in preparation for how we teach curriculum and have focused on the design of the frameworks, which I mentioned earlier, literacy, mathematics, the Indigenous Education Holistic Lifelong Learning Framework, which have all been launched, as well as the Student Wellbeing Framework, which will be available in the fall. We have been focusing on implementation supports, identified meetings and workshops for our school leaders as well as for key lead teachers. We're also in process of setting up all of our working groups, which will involve resource selection, identification of possible additional resource development, especially in the area of languages. And we are also partnering with other districts and external partners in support of all of that work. We will be providing funding and time for release time, and we're setting up a schedule to ensure that we're able to engage teachers through as many different choices so that they are as best prepared in this very short time frame as is possible for a quality implementation. I would highlight that all implementation doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen on the first day of school, not even in the first month. That our work is something that will be ongoing, and we continue to look for ways in which we can best support and respond to our students as they enter the classroom and are the first focus of all of our work. And with that, I'll turn it back to Chair Hack.
All right, thank you everyone for your presentations this evening. At this time, I'll take your questions and comments. If you have a question or comment, please type your first